Hey Aquarius, it's Empress Rose here. Welcome to your reading. These are general readings. Take what works, leave what doesn't. Not every word here can, or even should resonate with everyone watching it. We're going to do oracle cards over here, and then we'll do a more traditional tarot spread over on Vimeo. Also on Vimeo, I will be offering a little series on the major arcana soon, and so that will be available on Vimeo in just a little bit. I'm almost done with it. All right, what do these cards have to say? Oh, this is really unusual. I just did this. Okay, well, we have the squirrel. Preparedness, practicality, manifestation, master of all hidden treasure. Help me guard the things that matter most. I think you're taking care of your future, of course. This is really funny. Okay, well, you got a prayer right off the bat. Normally I like to end with that, but all right. Master of all hidden treasure. Help me guard the things that matter most. Protecting. Maybe even hiding some things. Keeping some things quiet, although the squirrels in my neighborhood are very loud. But preparing. Okay. We have all is connected. So this is about reframing something, changing the way you talk about something or the way you see something, understanding that small tweaks can have large ramifications. Small actions, small activities can end up changing the whole thing, can pull on something. So right, she's got spring and fall represented here. And she's made a small change, or she's making a small change, and it changes the whole story. So we have a lot of change represented here, and we have the agent of change being a very small tweak, a small adjustment. And then we have, can you hear me? We have communication issues, feeling maybe ignored, feeling exhausted, feeling exhausted by communication, tired of it, feeling unheard, unseen. But there's a little tweak you can do here to help yourself. So this all is connected to me, talks to me about how sometimes just small actions can have big ramifications. So if you're feeling unheard, if you're feeling like you're having difficulty, some sort of communication difficulty and not feeling heard, either like literally not feeling heard, not getting your message across, or some sort of communication difficulty where you're being misunderstood or something like that. There's just a small adjustment in how you can approach this issue. Yeah. Let's ask our crows here what they would have for Aquarius. You may not have gotten a response back from something. You may have had a one-sided conversation. But because everything's so interconnected, and there might be something that you do or that you did that had unintended consequences. I think the squirrel is asking you what matters most. Sometimes these questions of like guarding what matters most, what they ask us to do is to ask ourselves, what is most important in this situation? What's the important thing here? And ask you to clarify what it is that you do want to guard, because you're not going to be able to guard all your nuts. You're going to have to like pick something, pick what's things that matter most. So there's something here about if there's been a miscommunication or a disconnect. Sometimes we have to pick between. I want to be careful with that, because sometimes you have to pick between like being right and like having a relationship with someone, or being, knowing you're in the right, or having that relationship. And there's neither right or wrong answer, and that the answer for you will flow and be different from time to time in your life. So this could be like a request to, you know, what is this communication like? Is you saying what you want to say more important than being heard? Because sometimes you might have to tweak what you want to say in order to be heard. This reminds me of like a conversation with someone where you're trying to ask, what do you mean? And they just keep saying the same thing over and over again. So in that case, the most important thing to them is to say something, is to say this particular thing, not necessarily to communicate, not necessarily say to be understood or to be heard, but to say this thing the way they want to say it and how they want to say it. That's more important to them than being heard, right? And being understood, especially if someone's trying to understand, then that can indicate that there's that being understood isn't the most important. So I think you're being asked to protect the most important thing, but what is it in this situation that we're talking about? Some sort of communication situation. I think we have scavenge, which to me is also looking like salvage, is what I saw it as when it first came in. There's something back here in the past. I think, you know, you might have buried a nut that you can go find now. There's something in the past that has some value to you now, or something that looks like it's done and looks like it's over, but it's not. It still has some value. It still has something there for you, something there for you. So this would be like, go back through the trash, or go back through the garbage and find the thing that's important to you, right? Because we are talking about something that matters most. So a lot of this is garbage. I want to say noise. There's a lot of noise here, but there's something buried in that noise that is really important to you. And I think it's going to open up whatever this situation is. There's something sort of buried back here in all this noise that has some sort of value to you. Like if you want to be heard, if you want to be understood, there's something that looks like it's already done and already over with, but so scavenge to me is always about going back to the past and finding that nugget of information, because it's definitely connected. Everything's connected here, is what we're getting, and even the past is very much connected to your current situation. And then we have waterproof. So I like this too, because whatever sort of communication issue you're dealing with, it's actually not. It's not going to destroy your life. It's not really harming you. This is like, you're kind of built for this situation. You can handle what's coming towards you. You can handle this situation. And if it's a communication issue, you're going to be able to handle it. I don't know. I mean, you got to go back somewhere and revisit a situation, or revisit some sort of, there's like a place here that has a lot of noise in it, and a lot of just stuff that's unnecessary. And it's like this squirrel here guiding you, helping you guard the thing that matters most. And a lot of this doesn't matter at all. There's a lot here that just doesn't matter. And this is the same thing. This is like, there's a lot going on that just doesn't matter. It's not going to have a huge effect on you. It's not life-changing. It's not life-ruining. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise here that doesn't matter, but there is something inside that noise that does matter. And I find it interesting because I'm seeing this as like just noise, and then there's like this little like we're talking about a communication issue. So there may have been a lot of communication, but what you're looking for, what you want, what changes the situation is one little nugget, is one little piece in that. But most of it's just not inconsequential and not a big deal. So because you're waterproof, you're like built for it. It's not that big deal. So you're having communication issues, and this could be you or somebody else that didn't feel heard or didn't feel seen in some way. And there's right. And so what matters most is going through all this noise and figuring out the communication that does matter the most, the communication that is the most important. Figuring out what is of value here, because there's something of value here in some sort of kind of messy situation, or where there's a lot going on and most of it doesn't matter, but there is one part of it that is very valuable. And once you find that part, once you figure that out, it's all, you'll understand the rest of it and you'll be able to change this communication dynamic. But I think there's a sense of also being judicious about like what you're communicating, how you're communicating it. Figure out what actually is important to you to communicate here. And this "can you hear me" can be like communication frustration. There could be too much communication, and so what's of value is getting lost in it. Okay, it's looking for, that was messy. That was messy. Okay. Oh, wow. This is all part of the plan. And I like it because this waterproof here is like, nothing here is really life shattering or going to harm you. It's all part of a larger plan. Here we have take time to breathe out, disseminating moon. So letting go of something. Don't hold your breath is what I'm hearing. Don't hold your breath, especially with this "can you hear me?" Don't hold your breath for a response, right? I think this is more about work that you need to do, about what you value and what's important to you. It is all connected, but I think that a lot of this work is you evaluating something and not waiting, not holding your breath. The exhale is letting, sort of what's used go. So time to breathe out, letting what's used go, but you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We've got something really good here to look through, but letting go of what's not important. Again, like figuring out something that is important to you and letting go of what's not important, right? When you're breathing in, take that oxygen, you need that, but then letting go, breathing out, letting out all of the stuff that's not important to you, that you don't need, that's not essential to your well-being. There's a lot of like just letting go of things that aren't important, but there's something here about making a decision about what's important and making a decision to find what's important and to focus on what has value. And then these two came out together, and I like that. I like that for us. Anna, grandmother of Jesus, seeding the light, laying foundations, divine plan. Acacia, your guidance is divinely guided. So this one can be two ways. Something that I'm saying here doesn't make sense to you right now, but it will. So keep it in mind. I mean, you're discerning this, right? We're both like doing a co-intuitive activity here. I'm reading the cards as best I can, pulling out information, finding connections between them. They are all connected, apparently. And you are assessing like what's useful to my life, what's going to be important. No, that message isn't very useful to me, whatever. So, but this one does remind me that there might be something that I'm saying here that will come in handy later. The other way this goes is that you may be speaking, right? We have a communication issue, and someone needs to hear what you have to say. Like you might have something very important to add to someone's life. So I think that this is about not letting the important thing you need to communicate getting lost in a bunch of noise and garbage. Like not, if you have something, picking and choosing what you're communicating, and not letting it get lost somewhere, lost along the way. And then I just love this waterproof here because it's just like this isn't that big of a deal. Whatever this communication issue is, it's just not that big of a deal. And it's not going to like cause long-term harm, or it's not a make or break situation. There's just something valuable for you out back there that is connected to a bunch of other things going on for you. So your guidance is divinely guided. If you have some advice or something to give someone, I don't want to say like, oh yeah, be very particular. Like if you have advice, make sure you pick the one thing that's important to tell somebody. Do not, create a bunch of noise so that this other person has to sort through or just gets overwhelmed. But pick and choose. You do have important things to say that need to be, and you need to be heard. You have something important to say and you need to be heard, but make sure that you're placing value on the thing that needs to be heard, not just blah and then having someone else like have to sort through it or just, you know, hang up because they're like, I don't even know, that was just a lot. So I think this thing that matters most to you is really important. And this is saying it's important that you say that, but it's important that, yeah. And then the laying foundation, divine plan. This is early days here on whatever's going on this conversation, on this situation. There's much more to unfold. This is just sort of a beginning. You're like on the prologue of something. So you're just sort of introducing things, you know, where you got the idea or whatever. There's just some sort of foundation being laid here. And maybe you're relaying a foundation because the old foundation was a bit shaky. Or maybe you're laying a foundation under what's actually important to you, right? Because we're letting some things go so that I think we can focus on actually building something that we actually want to build. So there's a lot of intentionality here. I guess that's the overall for the reading, is that being very intentional with your communication, both the listening aspect and the sharing aspect. So the Akasha means both your guidance is divinely guided. I feel like that's both guidance that you receive is really important. And we have divine here twice. So I think that it's part of a larger plan, right? And then I love this too, because it's part of a larger plan. All is connected. There's something here that's part of something much, much bigger than just this situation. And that's what I'm getting here with this waterproof too, is that this is a small part of a much bigger picture. And it's all connected. And you're laying, I think this foundation you need to lay or relay needs to be very solid, very intentional, and make sure that you are valuing it, and that you're clear on what matters to you, right? So if we're laying a foundation, you know, we want to be very clear on like the parameters of that foundation. You don't just slap, you know, concrete down on dirt. You know, you're very intentional. It's all laid out. It's all planned out. So I think there's like a divine plan coming up here, but your partner also needs to be intentional, and you need to be, yeah, just very intentional about your communication, both receiving communication, what communications you receive. This could be about needing to straighten up your social media feeds, about what communication you are receiving, being very intentional about that, being very focused on that. And also so that you're not just receiving a bunch of whatever garbage anybody wants to throw at you, but making sure that you're being very intentional with what you're taking in, as well as what you're giving out. So, all right, Aquarius, I hope that was helpful for you. If you want, join me over on Vimeo. If not, I'll see you guys in a while.